What's up, guys? It's your boys Wookie back with another Chris Watts video. And to join me today is going to be Watts the Obsession. Not in real life, not quite yet. We still have been trying to correlate a time where we can actually have a collaboration. But this one, you guys have been blowing up my phone and my messages about watching this. That Watts the Obsession, Kelly at Watts the Obsession, has posted of Dr.Oz, Chris Watts' neighbor, Nate, being interviewed, what he knows about Chris and Shanann Watts. Very intriguing, because who would think about interrogating, but interviewing the neighbors? What do they know? They probably know a little bit about them, but could they know more? We're gonna take a look at it with Watts the Obsession. What I'd like you guys to do, is help Watts the Obsession grow her channel by going over to her channel, watching her old stuff, watching her new stuff. Give that subscribe, the like, the comment, the share for her to build this video for us to enjoy and learn more. It can take a lot of work, a lot of effort. And if you definitely would like to go over to her channel, I would definitely do so and give her some love. But over here, make sure you guys subscribe by hitting that white bar icon down at the bottom right. Hit that bell icon next to it. So when I do post videos like this one, you guys will get that little ring notification that Wookie myself has posted that video. Then you guys can watch, comment, like, and share. And again, with that being said, let's get a video.
Chris Watts, convicted of murdering his pregnant wife and 2 daughters. How well do you know your spouse? Time exclusive with his neighbor, who handed over the video.
Watch, I'll show you.
Nate
That led to his arrest.
Welcome back to Watts the Obsession. I recently stumbled upon this episode of Dr. Oz. He interviews neighbor Nate, neighbor to the Watts. They touch upon some interesting topics I think you guys would like to hear, and I hope you enjoy. Please leave a comment.
Leave a
This
like and a
interview
subscribe.
originally aired on January 15th, 2019. That's 4 months after this horrible tragedy happened, and just 2 months after Chris Watts was sentenced and was serving his time.
It's one of the most deplorable
in
murder
prison.
cases I've ever heard. A pregnant mother, Shanann Watts, and her 2 daughters, Cece and Bella, killed at the hands of her husband, their father, Chris Watts. Today, an exclusive interview with a neighbor close to the family, who's now being called a hero for helping police put Chris Watts behind bars.
I don't know what you guys gotta tell me. I know there's a lot of people that keep showing me both sides, and I have watched both sides. I only post what I believe in. My theories, my opinions, my educational and entertainment purposes only videos that I post. And a lot of people have mentioned, well, Wookie, you only show one side that I believe in. If you would like to look at the side that you believe in, there is a vast majority of channels that you can watch. I do not believe at all that Nate or Nicole Atkinson had anything to do with this. There are some channels that do believe that they had some part in it, which is definitely very interesting. But I'm letting you guys know what would be the motive. That's just my partake. So let's continue.
What made a man most people thought was a loving husband and dad turn into a killer?
Like that.
The story shocked the world. A devastated father pleading for the return of his pregnant wife and their 2 small daughters, who vanished after his wife returned from a weekend business trip. If you're out there, just come back. If somebody has her, just please bring her back. I need to see everybody. I need to see everybody again.
And Jenny Soto
To
did
the outside world and on social media, Chris and Shanann Watts appeared a picture-perfect couple, shown smiling together with their 2 young girls and happily anticipating the birth of their 3rd. But just hours after his impassioned plea for their return, Chris oil and
Just
gas
snaps.
tanks. The police investigation would also uncover a secret.
This is what that night that they went there. There was a mysterious woman that walked into the house but never had left.
Sordid flip side to the family man facade that included multiple mistresses, financial turmoil, and
I don't think it was
possible
multiple mistresses. It was
Chris
the one.
Watts ultimately pleaded guilty
that
to
Troy.
felony charges related to his family's murder.
Troy.
The most inhumane and vicious crime that I have handled out of the thousands of cases that I have seen.
Watts was sentenced to life in prison,
Should've got death.
leaving Shanann's devastated friends and family with many unanswered questions. What really turned Chris Watts from a seemingly devoted husband and father into a cruel, cold-blooded killer?
Nate joins me now. He lived next door to the Watts family. He provided security footage that was instrumental. It's a piece of evidence in the case. He joins me now in a daytime exclusive interview. When you first heard that Shanann, your neighbor, Cece, Bella, these beautiful little girls, were missing, what did you think? What went through your mind?
At first, I couldn't believe that they were missing. If they were, I didn't know at the time if they were missing or not. So basically what I did was went to my security camera footage, checked it out,
right off the
went
bat.
back to the police and told them basically what I had.
He could have sat there and never showed them a thing. But Nate thought about it, and then vast majority of people, there's people that are showing this and showing that and showing this. We don't know what's real. We don't know what's fake anymore. There's so many doctors things here, doctor things there. Like, Nate knows the actual real footage. And there's YouTube channels that can say out there that we've seen the real fit. We don't know. Honestly, there's so much blown up parts of this footage. It's ridiculous. Nate saw it. Nate brought it to the police. And Nate and Nicole, I still think to this day, if it wasn't for these two, Chris could have gotten away with it. He could have gotten away with these murders.
And they eventually wanted to come in and look at it.
Intelligent of you. I'm going to congratulate you and thank you for this, because we all have more power than we think. This is a great example. Neighbor realizes the problem, takes advantage of whatever resources he has, and you end up changing the destiny of this case.
He did.
How would you describe Chris Watts as a neighbor? And if you don't mind, Shanann and the girls as well, what were they like?
Chris was real quiet. He would always wave or I'd sometimes talk to you. But he was you could tell he was kind of standoffish. There was times when he just didn't want to wave or didn't want to say anything, but usually he was nice. And Shanann was always really friendly. She came over, welcomed us to the neighborhood. The girls were always running around, laughing, having a great time.
So nothing seemed out of the ordinary?
No, nothing at all.
And when you first looked at that security footage, and you saw that this truck had backed up, and the morning that they disappeared, you never saw the kids leave, or Shanann, but you saw the truck back up. What did you think he was doing?
He said he was loading tools, but I thought that was a little bit odd because I had never seen him really back his truck into the driveway ever. He always parked it out front. So I definitely thought it was kind of odd. And then when you saw him loading stuff into the cab of the truck and never anything into the back, I really thought that was definitely odd.
See?
Is that when you began to think maybe those are bodies he's actually loading into his truck?
I don't know if at that point in time I thought it was bodies, but at the time I thought stuff wasn't adding up.
So you showed the footage to the police, right? and then you showed it to Chris Watts.
Yep.
And that encounter, I should point to everybody, was recorded. You know how police have those body cams? So a police officer body camera recorded this. So take a look at what that camera showed.
Him freaking out.
And this is him at 5:17.
Look how nervous he is.
We park out there on the side. I just want to get everything back in. Be easier, so loading everything out there, all the tools that I had to bring in.
That face right there. I was like, yep, he did it.
What else can I do with
Or
it?
like this is like he just
My detective just showed up, so he'll probably want to talk to you.
I had her park right here.
Yeah. So someone,
See if
I can
anything
see where
happens.
someone tried to jimmy with a flathead screwdriver.
Oh, it'll pick up anything coming down the street this way.
You know where that tree is?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Watch, I'll show you.
So we're all watching that behavior that you were there for. What did you think of that encounter with Chris?
It was definitely very odd. I'm more of a watcher. I watch people more than, talk to everybody. I kind of sit back and watch. So to see him putting his hands on his head and see him nervous, looking around, constantly on his phone. The other thing I thought that was definitely weird was he wasn't watching the footage at all.
that's the other
He would
part.
look at it for a second, then go back to his phone, or look at it for a second.
If he was that engaged, he would have been, yeah, I see it. Yep, okay. I agree with you. But he's texting Nicole.
And look away. And if my family was missing, I would be glued to that TV 100%. to see if I could see absolutely anything.
Those are incredibly profound observations. That's right. I'd be glued, trying to get ahead of the case, not trying to keep up with it.
Yeah, I would have been on that TV seeing if there was anything that showed anything about my family. And the fact that he wasn't watching it at all, he kept looking up and looking around and petting my dog and stuff like that. I just thought that was odd.
I'm going to say it again, but you reflect the power of what seems like an ordinary man.
Yeah.
You're not a detective.
No.
Right? You're not a police officer.
By no means.
But you picked up on a lot of subtle things that I hadn't thought of till you mentioned them up there. I bet most of us hadn't.
Yeah, I definitely just thought it was odd, the way he was acting, and he was kind of swaying back and forth a lot, putting his hands on his head, and he accidentally knocked his sunglasses down, and just little stuff like that where I was like, why are you so nervous?
Like you watch his hands like they're doing this.
You should show more concern.
He knew he was screwed.
I know you've talked publicly in the past about hearing Chris and Shanann argue, and you made a commitment, which I'm proud of you for making, of not speaking about it in detail. Why?
I don't want everyone to look at this case and think, oh my gosh, they argued all the time. That's not what we're focused on. I want to focus on Shanann and the girls and what a great life they had.
That's why.
Instead of, oh my gosh, they fought all the time. He was so mean to her.
See, that's the thing right there. That's a great man right there. Why look at the bad side of both sides? The thing that we want to look at is, why did Chris do it? How did he do it? Was somebody with him? And that's about it. Couples are going to fight. Couples are going to argue. That usually is supposed to build your marriage better. Some instances it doesn't. Some instances it makes it stronger. But like he said, we want to look at the good aspect of Shanann, Bella, and Celeste. I'm surprised there's not people out there that are trying to blame the little girls. And for people to be out there and tell us, people that are behind the keyboards, that shame on you for doing this and like that, we can see the BS. And we want to bring this to light, that Shanann wasn't at fault. Why would a deceased woman be at fault? Chris is the one that controlled his hands. He talks about a dark entity, but what he said right there is exactly what we want to hear. We want to look at the good side of the case, as in how they were, not this yelling and screaming and if they did or not. Like that, what is that going to do?
At the time, I embellished a little bit as far as they fought constantly, and I didn't want that to come out that way. It was more like they didn't fight any more than any other couple. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, where houses are so close, it's kind of hard not to notice when people are outside and doing stuff like that.
I can hear my neighbors.
But it wasn't like he was constantly yelling at her. He was super mean. They had a couple confrontations that I happened to see. Yeah. But it was never him being this big, huge monster. And I've just noticed on social media, they really focus on that. And that's not what I want to focus on.
Yeah. It's not right for the family either. I honor you for trying to protect them.
Thank you.
Up next, Nate weighs in on the rumors about Chris Watts' alleged secret relationships. And what does he think about him now? We'll be right back.
See, I don't know about the relationships as in plural.
I'm back with an exclusive interview with the neighbor who helped put killer dad Chris Watts behind bars. Let's talk about these other rumors regarding Chris. There's a rumor that he has had other girlfriends.
I don't think so.
And there's a rumor that he had a sexual relationship with another man. What are your thoughts on those two allegations? I didn't
really know at the time he had a girlfriend. Because from the outside, it looks like a normal, everyday family. Husband's going to work, coming home. So I didn't really know much about that. And as far as a relationship with a male, it seems kind of odd to me, considering he had pictures of his girlfriend, stuff like that. So I just don't believe that happened.
You knew Chris Watts.
That's why I don't put it on my channel.
He was a normal guy.
Yep.
But now that you're aware of the brutality of the crimes that he committed against his wife and his beautiful children, and even an unborn child, what do you think of him now?
Part of me thinks he's a monster. For you to be able to do that to your wife and especially your kids, Like, I love my son more than anything, and I could never see myself hurting him at all.
Yeah.
And the fact that he could go out of his way to take her life and the kid's life and then act like nothing happened and try to cover it up just shows his character.
Yeah. So he got sentenced to 5 consecutive life sentences.
That was 4 with 48 years.
With no chance for parole. You think that's what he deserved?
After talking to her family, Shanann's family, and finding out that they felt like it wasn't their place to seek the death penalty. And my personal opinion on it is I think sitting in a jail cell thinking about what you did every day is a lot more punishment than sitting on a death row
aspect
and constantly thinking about your case and how I'm going to beat it and how I'm going to. It would give him other things to think about instead of what he should be thinking about, which is his family and what he did to them.
I really want to applaud you.
Thank
Not
you.
just for what you did, but it reminds all of us the power each of us has. God bless you. Coming up, the heartbreaking medical reason we know Chris Watts' daughter Bella fought back for her life. And what is life like in prison for Chris Watts? Is he really receiving love letters from hundreds of women?
Unfortunately.
That's the rumor. It's next.
About the motives behind Chris Watts' cold-blooded action and for his here's what it looks like for when analyzing murders. Crime correspondent Melissa Moore speaks next. Her father is convicted of killing 8 women. He was known as the happy-faced killer because he drew for. Are you kidding?
We're back talking about the horrific case of Chris Watts, who was convicted and sentenced to life in prison without parole for the brutal murders of his wife Shanann, daughters Bella and Cece, and an unborn son. I'm joined by our crime panel, crime correspondent Melissa Moore, forensic psychiatrist Dr. Clay Watson, and former homicide prosecutor Anasiga Nicolazzi. And we just heard 2 important revelations from the Watts neighbor, Nate. He now says Chris and Shanann did not argue more than most other couples, backtracking what he had said in earlier interviews. And he doesn't believe the recent stories that Chris had a sexual relationship with another man.
Don't believe it.
Anasiga, your thoughts as a prosecutor about both of those issues?
There's still so many question marks and unknowns in this case, and unfortunately the only way we ever get to the actual true answers are if Chris Watts ever decides to tell the truth. We don't know if he will. The bottom line, though, regardless, is that this is a man who wanted a new life, and he was willing to kill to get it. His wife and his beautiful little girls, Bella and Cece, his unborn son, Nico, became nothing but mere objects to him that stood in his way. In all my years as a prosecutor, I've obviously seen
offspring. I know.
Right, and there's a hierarchy too. There is a hierarchy in prison where men who attack their children or pedophiles are the lowest of the low. So even in this is a high-profile case, so he's got a target on his back.
Thank you for your wonderful insights. Coming up, another shocking story of a missing Colorado mom, and now her fiancé is charged with her murder. What happened to Kelsey Barrett? That's next.
Like, where do you get to decide that you want to murder? What about divorce? What about separation? Try it back later. Why is murder the first thing that you possibly thought about? I doubt that it was probably the first thing. You probably thought about separation, but like she said earlier, maybe I don't want to pay child support. I don't want to pay for alimony and lose my half of my halves and stuff like that. That's probably what he thought about.
Is this a person who can act without any remorse? Is this a person who does little things that sort of leaks information to say, okay, you don't have your ring on, you don't have any problem with sleep, you're acting sort of strange during the watching a video as we saw previously. But the other piece that's important here is the brutality in which he carried out these killings. And again, it's hard to imagine that a father and a husband can do these things, but the brutality that can come usually comes in these killings from a high emotional state. And that emotional state may be due to extreme panic or anger or extreme resentment.
But here, I mean, tell me if you would agree with this, client, doctor. This man is so cold and calculated. Most people want to move on. They know they can go and get a divorce. Here he decides he doesn't want to be tethered with alimony, visitation. And so what he decides to do is to take their lives of these people that were supposed to be those that he cherished the most.
The nucleus around him.
But what's haunted me the most is that he was able to sleep at night with his girls in those oil bins. And I heard from the authorities when they tried to retrieve the little girls that one of the little girls' hands degloved. Like that, I mean, there's moments in cases that are there's just parts of cases that stick with you. And I think for those, the people who had to retrieve them, that they have to remember that, you know.
You think that Chris Watts would be unable to do things most of us can do just without eating at him?
Not being able to live.
He was interrogated for hours by police before finally admitting to his own dad that he killed his wife.
Just think what his dad thought right away.
I mean, I'm just thinking about the father putting his hands like this as he hears his own son, his own flesh, tell him that he has killed the grandkids and the daughter-in-law. What does this tell us about what was going on in the mind of Chris Watts?
At that point, Chris Watts has to survive. He's in survival mode. So everything that he says at this point forward is all about self-preservation. So he is talking to his father and giving his father one story, gave police another story. And in all of it, and very much similar to the killings and the disposing of the body, everything is about his wants and needs above all else. So he's going to do what he needs to do because he wants to realize a new life. He can't realize the new life without telling more lies. And so if we go through all the steps that was necessary from the time of planning the killings, to carrying out the killings, to disposing of the bodies, to then trying to avoid detection, most of us, the vast majority of individuals, are not capable of the degree of compartmentalization that's needed to carry out those things. And now he is being interrogated. And he has to be able to come up with a story, and that story is all about his own self-preservation, so he can move on to his new life.
But don't you think there was manipulation there too? Because if he tells this to his father, then his father will somehow have a twist of empathy, like he was trying to keep his parents on his side.
But it's really something that as prosecutors we always say that at certain points that a defendant or suspect will admit what they have to and deny what they can. He knows the gig is up. He knows they're going to know something based on, so what can he quickly switch gears and tell a story that maybe gets him out of most of this. So that's what you almost see. He wants this new life. He knows that he's not going to walk away scot-free, so he came up with a new story that he tried to enlist his father's support.
And the story was that his wife had actually already killed the kids.
Exactly. Right. So you hear my wife is the monster and I, as this loving father, snap when my children have been taken from this woman and now out of my state of just incredible anger at what she did to my...
He only used that because of Tammy. Tammy put it in his head, not to say anything bad about Tammy. She just wanted to spark something in him to see if he could confess. And that's where it started. And then he used that story and then later on apologized for stating Shanann was the one when he said it was him. But
my children, now I went ahead and killed her.
The murder mystery of Kelsey Bereth. I'm gonna have to look into that one.
We're back with our true crime panel, and I want to talk about another murder of a Colorado mom, Kelsey Bereth.
What's happening in Colorado?
On Thanksgiving Day. Her fiance Patrick Frazee has now been charged with her murder.
Why?
I see that you've prosecuted many successful cases. What's going on in this? What would you be thinking in this murder investigation?
Well, as you said, Kelsey was last seen going into a supermarket with her one-year-old daughter, Kaylee, on Thanksgiving Day. Then it was silence. A couple days later, her phone pinged over 700 miles away in Idaho. Same day, her employer gets a text that she's not going to be in work the following week.
From her phone?
Her phone. Then nothing. Just complete, no one knew anything. Fast forward now to December 21st. Her fiance, Patrick Frazee, was arrested for her murder. Very important to note that her body has not, and at that point certainly hadn't been found. He was charged with 2 counts of murder, one under the theory that he intentionally killed her, the second that he killed her during the course of another crime, in this case robbery. And interestingly, there's 3 other counts of solicitation to commit murder, that he enlisted or tried to enlist the help of another person on 3 different occasions to help him kill Kelsey or to kill her after his home was searched.
Where's the baby?
Now, this is a case that is, new developments are coming almost daily. And some of the most latest and biggest are that in Idaho, a woman has been looked at as possibly being the one who helped them dispose of this phone. Looking at her more, there are reports saying that she, as a nurse, is someone who had a relationship with Patrick going as far back as 2016. And the breaking news is that a couple has come forward from Idaho to say that they, as far back as October, were told by an employee of theirs that she had been contacted by another woman to say that a man named Patrick was looking for her help to kill his fiance. And it was only when they saw Kelsey's mother imploring the public to help find her daughter that they started to put the pieces together. They contacted the FBI. 4 days later, he's arrested.
So it makes a difference. When you guys speak and see things, it matters.
Oh my gosh. So with that being said, guys, don't ever think that murder is the answer. It is not. It's going to not destroy lives, but it's going to destroy many. It's a rippling effect. It's going to cause pain, suffering everywhere. If you're not happy, just separate, divorce. I'm not saying do that, but don't murder. That is not the answer. Never, ever is that the answer. Maybe I need to get into that case that we just saw there. I never even heard about it until now, so I definitely should look into that one as well. Please comment down below your guys' thoughts on Nate. Do you think, if it wasn't for Nate or Nicole, that this case would have turned a different way? Would Chris still be outside of prison walls? Would he be with NK? What is your analysis on that? Your thoughts, your inquiries, and so forth. Thank you guys for watching. I surely appreciate all your guys' support and love and just overall support. Make sure you guys go over to Watch the Obsession. This woman dedicates herself to cases. She's done other cases, but she is strictly trying to find the answers on this and definitely has great content. So definitely go over to her channel. And with that being said, please take care, be safe, and as always, keep nerding on. And we'll see you guys in the next one.